This is Inside Alli Sports. I'm Pat Parnell.
And I'm Angela Sun. There were a lot of questions going into the first ASP Surfing World Tour stop at the Quiksilver and Roxy Pro in Australia. Probably the biggest one was, is there going to be any surf?
Yeah, and the answer to that was, well, yes and no. After pumping sand to help create the superbank at Snapper Rocks, the pros were greeted with 1 to 3 foot waves. Not the best, but they did make the best of it. And this is where youth versus experience came into play, in a field that's beginning to look like old school versus high school.
Going streaking!
I love the spirit. Okay, Tour rookie Gabriel Medina from Brazil was forced out before the quarterfinals by fellow first-year Tour competitor, Australian Yaden Nickel. Suffering similar fates in early rounds were Kolohe Andino, eliminated in round 3 by Brazilian Adriana de Souza. Hawaiian John Florence also taken out of commission in round 3 by Australian Adrian Buchan. And finally, Miguel Pupo, who went home after round 4. The vets seem to use their experience to adapt to the conditions, changing their tactics as often as they change their boards. Defending Quiksilver Pro champion Kelly Slater dominated his heat in round 4, even switching out his board in mid-heat.
You know, that's a heat where you can kind of mess around. That's why I switched boards to a new one I've never ridden. You know, I probably wouldn't do that in a normal heat, but heat like that gives you the room to move, and I ride that board design all the time. I just hadn't ridden that board, so it just seemed like the right one to ride out there.
Round 5 action saw Joel Parkinson edge fellow Australian Julian Wilson, earning 2-time Quiksilver Pro champion a place in the quarterfinals. After fighting through the pain after being stung by a blue bottle jellyfish, or perhaps fired up by it, Parkinson posted the event's first perfect 10. Though a skeptical Shea Lopez tweeted to Kelly Slater, 10? Seen a lot of waves surf that well score between 8.5 and 9.5, but never a 10. Kelly tweeted back, great ride, but perfect score without an air in performance waves doesn't really tick all the boxes. He smashed it though. In quarterfinal matchups, Parkinson took on South African Jordy Smith, while Kelly Slater matched up against Australian Josh Kerr. We'll have the full Quiksilver Pro results next time on Inside Alli Sports.
In what played out as payback for last year's finals, Roxy Pro runner-up Tyler Wright from Australia faced off against defending champ Carissa Moore from Hawaii. The much-anticipated rematch had Wright ferociously attacking the waves, defeating the ASP World Champion and moving on to the semifinals. Working just as hard was Australian Sally Fitzgibbons, who eliminated Hawaiian Malia Manuel. While the 18-year-old placed the highest of any rookie at Snapper, Manuel couldn't match up against the strong performance of the ASP World Champion runner-up.
It's the exciting part of the event. You know, you start to really build, and you have to test yourself and just have that confidence to throw the big maneuvers. I love sort of quarterfinal stage onwards, and especially out here at Snapper.
Fitzgibbons will have to bring everything she's got into the semifinals when she goes up against Steph Gilmore, who's been dominating her heats at Snapper. Rounding out the All-Aussie semifinal, it's Tyler Wright matched up against Laura Ediver. We'll catch you up with the complete results next time on Inside Alli Sports.
With old guards like Joel Parkinson and Kelly Slater sending the youth movement back to school at Snapper, is this a preview of what's to come on the World Tour? Or will the young guns learn from their mistakes and hit back twice as hard? If anybody can cut through the clutter, it's pro surf legend and former world #1, Brad Gerlach. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pat.
Amazing season so far. Let's get into the talent on the rookie side, because it goes deep, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you got Kolohe, you got Gabriel Medina, Yaden, who I thought looked the best of the rookies, and then I guess John's kind of a rookie, and he looked amazing.
Who has been training in the off-season that you can tell?
Everybody.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Pretty much?
Yeah, everybody. And I think, you know, you heard from the guys, and they're all feeling like a ton of pressure and a lot of nerves for the first event, because they know a good start is like a good sign for the season and all that stuff.
And I think the same would apply for the women, because you've seen a lot of surfers just reinvent themselves, whether it's Laura Ediver or Stephanie Gilmore come back with a vengeance.
Stephanie looked amazing. Really loose, really relaxed, powerful, still feminine, you know, with how fluid she is, and yeah, very impressive. I thought Carissa looked great. Maybe she just didn't compete as well, but she was up against Tyler Wright, who I also think is looking very good. She could use like a little more refinement in her style, but she's still super effective because she's on the attack, and that's what's fun to watch.
So many contenders on the women's side. Let's talk about the one thing that's been blowing up the message boards, and that is Parko's 10. I know you saw it. What are your thoughts? Was it a 10? Did he tick all the boxes?
Well, I watched it on online, and you know, it's hard to tell online because you can't see how much distance he's covering. So it's a little different. When you're watching it live, a guy's covering a ton of area, and there's a lot of speed, and there's that spontaneity spontaneity and you never know what's going to happen, so you get a different emotional response. My first feeling was I didn't think it was a 10, but it was certainly an exciting ride, and that second turn was the crux of the whole score. Not a lot of variety. That's that's not a 10, but if you're there on the beach, it's pretty. Maybe that was the most exciting ride that they've seen in a long time. So.
King Kelly, 11-time world champ. You saw how he performed in the early rounds at Snapper. Is his mind in the right place, and do you think he's going to?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. I think he's really focused on winning. I think he's having a lot of fun there. I think he's so good at he's the best ever. And certainly his body looks like it's in fine form and shape, and his boards look like they're working well for him. And if he wins the contest, I won't be surprised.
Exactly. Brad Gerlach, everyone.